If you all haven't figured this out yet, Chris is the question asker on our team.
Yeah.
And I have to spill the beans, Chris, because you have a saying that you've put up in your office that we've now memorialized with a mug. Do you have the mug? Has it shown up yet?
It's not right here.
No, that's fine. That's fine. They don't need to see it. They just need to hear it.
Do you
you have a reminder to yourself, and I want you to tell everybody what your reminder is.
It's ask stupid questions, stupid, and it's backward.
I love it.
Maybe you can see it.
It's fine for us. They can read it. Don't worry. No. That's not how it works,
guys.
That's not how it works.
Yes, ask stupid questions because that's where a lot of the answers are hiding. A lot of the best.
I think you
answers.
Just called all of our listeners stupid.
That's really
mean, man.
That's it.
You know what? I stand by it.
No, I love it. I think it's a good reminder. Don't be afraid to ask questions.
You're listening to the Remarkabrand podcast, where authentic brands win.
What was the most useful takeaway that you guys got from Inbound 2024 in Boston?
Most useful takeaway.
Or booth interaction. Because we like the booths, right? We came away thinking like, actually, the vendors are pretty solid, right?
You two like the booths.
Okay, well, you know,
don't rope me into this one.
I think, you know, I am not an avid user of HubSpot, so I didn't really go for the HubSpot insights. But I think something I learned was in-person stuff is irreplaceable. When you're able to show up to a place, a physical place, and meet new people, see old friends, it's worth it. I mean, that was a big trip for us. Mike and I flew out there from Phoenix, Arizona, from Phoenix to Boston. We had a lot of logistical issues with hotels and all that stuff. But being together with, us three as our team, but also just seeing clients, seeing just people we know from the accounting industry, any excuse we have to do that. And for our listeners, any excuse you have to do that, or the, BD, people responsible for BD at your firm who have the opportunity to do that, I would just say that is irreplaceable. Even if you're an introvert like me, it is an excellent practice.
My biggest takeaway was, man, HubSpot is killing it. I'm watching like, what is it? Like 10, 12,000 people filling up a convention center. Each of them paying like what, 12 to $2,500 a pop to attend in a ticket price, all the sponsors and vendors who are paying to be there. I calculated at bare minimum, they're raking in $20,000 or $20 million in revenue from that. Now, obviously there's a lot of costs involved, but like, that's not even their product. They're not an event company. It just blew me away of just like the value that you can deliver through what you just said, Sam, just in-person events, but more from like the brand side of things of, man, like what a great testament to the success of HubSpot, the success of their product, of like the demand. And I'll be honest, and we're kind of jumping ahead here. Was that like a 5-star event, top must go to every single year type event for me? No, it wasn't. I think, as one person put it, it felt a little bit like we all just sat in on HubSpot's like company retreat.
Yeah.
And it was rah-rah and it was fun. And there were like good things that happened. There was some good content, but it wasn't like, oh my goodness, this is the most like impactful event of my entire year. Right. And I don't even know if it was really designed for me. I'm not sure I'm the right person to be there. And so, but the fact that like they get people there, they get 12,000, they pack out the convention center, without even, I mean, it was well produced. Like I'm going to give them full credit for that. It looked amazing. Sound was great. Well organized. You know, they've got staff everywhere. I mean, just really well done from an event standpoint. I'm not sure the content lived up to the hype, for me at least. And then I have we'll get into this in the next segment, but some other issues I have. But yeah, I'm just like, I think we've talked about this, like part of our vision at Resound is like, maybe one day we have our own like Resound or probably Remarkabrand conference. That would be amazing. And like, I think this gave me some hope that like maybe we can get there, and it probably won't be 12,000 people. That'd be insane. But like, could we do like 200, 500? That'd be really cool. And I just see the value of it from a brand awareness, brand recognition, brand kind of engagement level. That like HubSpot was just, it's clear like they are doing something really, really cool when they can put on an event like this. And it draws in so many people. And there were a lot of people that got a lot of value out of it. So I don't want to discount based on my take on it. Mine's very unique. So, just, and there's always room to improve. No event's perfect, but kudos to HubSpot. Like,
Yeah.
Great case study in what it looks like to build a really phenomenal brand. They've done it. I mean, HubSpot's a big case study for me. So I liked actually getting to experience it. And that was a big takeaway for me.
Yeah. I mean, I think that because I was just reflecting on one of the lowlights, and that was the media masterclass, content marketing tips for media leaders. And I was thinking
that one
about
was
it.
Awful. I'm sorry. I'm with you.
Yeah, based on what you just said, they had people up there, and they're like, they just kept talking around this idea of like knowing who your audience is, and I'm like, that's table stakes. That's is it because we're in the business that we know this? But it's just like I wrote down relevance. Gee whiz, wow, because it's like, yeah, of course, right? Relevance, write a persona. Is that what you're trying to tell us? Write a persona. And then I realized I think that it kind of reminded me of that the Simon Mainwaring and that whole idea of just like, once you get this big, you just start kind of BSing. And that's just all you do. And you just spend brands' money to, like, these big brands, you just spend their money to buy. All you're doing is you're buying into, and then you're just saying all the right things, all the normal things that you would expect, very politically correct. You don't ruffle any feathers. You just try to sound really like humble and all the words. And it feels like an act. And so when I saw that, I'm like, it's just more actors. There's more people saying things that aren't very interesting at all. And I think that the world we live in, we're at the brand level, which is at the same time more, I think more pure than that, more real, more true, right? Because of the companies we work with, and then more practical than that. And I think that's why I liked the email teardown so much. And it's why I like what we do at Resound so much. And I don't really know if we saw a bunch of that there. I think we saw people trying to act like they do what we do because it's the thing to do.
It's an interesting.
Hope that's not too.
I don't know if I thought about it that way. That's cool. No, I like it. I agree. I think there were some format issues with that panel too. So, Sam, did you? Oh no, you had your big takeaway, didn't you?
I already went.
You already
but
went.
But what's the low? Like, is that what other kinds of things can we talk about that were just like?
Well, the Airbnb.
Like, let's be real. Yes.
Before we even landed, I had my
What's
low
your
light.
rating, Mike?
And I'll be honest, it kind of flavored the week a little bit for me. We redeemed it. That place that Sam locked down on day 2 was helpful. But yeah, I mean, that's a whole other tangent story, but for all the listeners who don't care, our Airbnb canceled about an hour before we landed. So good job, host, who shall not be named. Yeah, that was disappointing. And scramble. I was mad scramble on that flight to try to find something else. And then we got kind of stuck with the airport hotel for a night. And that was not great and very, very, very expensive. Yeah. I think that probably is the number one low light for me. And this is just as the business owner who, we sent 30 people, the expense to go to Boston, and apparently they're going to do it in San Francisco next year, which is not going to be cheaper. I just don't think it's there. I just don't think the value is there for all three of us to go. And that's very contextualized to our firm, our team, the three of us particularly, and the cost that is Boston. A lot of that was just the fact that it's in Boston. Flights are expensive. Hotels were insane. Finding a place was difficult. It's just there's not enough accommodation for the number of people that are coming into that city. So, it's probably more of a complaint about location and price to value ratio than it was to like any one specific thing of like, oh, this was just, were there sessions that were better than others? There were others that were worse than others. Yeah, absolutely. None of it was like, oh my goodness, this is the worst conference ever. Terrible, good conversations. If I had like one big critique, maybe if that's another way to think about it, Chris, that wasn't totally your question, but my biggest critique, there was really no organized networking. I think it was maybe like one networking session, but it was very opt-in oriented. I think that's a huge missed opportunity for HubSpot. As a in-person, we're at an in-person conference. One of the main values of being in person is the networking, I think, for most people. Yep. And they did not facilitate that well, in my opinion. So
and then you lose the fact, I never thought of this until you said that, but you lose the fact that, okay, now people are going to want to go to HubSpot next year because now they know people and they're going to want to reunite with them and, that kind of thing.
Yep. I saw most people just stuck with their little group that they came with. If you didn't have networking kind of organized outside of HubSpot, like you went and put together something, either an event outside of a conference or even while you're on site, you organize your own little like networking opportunities. If you're not connected in, I mean, like we met one guy whose first and probably last time that he will go to inbound. He's evaluating HubSpot. They're a pretty large organization. They're considering moving over to HubSpot. I think they're going to do it regardless of his experience in inbound, which is hilarious to me. But he didn't feel like he got connected. He didn't feel like he got his answers answered in his like evaluation of the product, even going to the individual, like kind of they had breakout stations where you could go and ask specific questions to guides. The answers were mostly, oh, we'll go on our online university and learn about the product. And he's like, no, I want someone to train me. I will pay someone. And they're like, oh, we don't have that here. Well, and he's like, I'm already here. Like, train me, show me how to do it. And they just kept pointing him back to the online, training. So the free stuff. And he was just like, it's not what I need. So I just like that is a little obviously anecdotal point. It's not a big data point, but it just feels indicative of, I think, some of the experience that I had with going to my first inbound conference.
Yeah. Do you guys want to, I have a couple of notes, a couple of takeaways. Do we want to go talk about a few of those things? There's specific things about email that I thought were really good. Or do we want to keep going at a higher level?
Sure. Let's do that. And then after that, we should ask the final and question that everyone wants to know, which is why they should not go back.
Yeah.
Or why they should not go.
Or should they? Yeah. Would we go?
And that's totally clickbait. I get it.
Okay. So there was one thing one thing I wrote down in the and this is the email. It's all surrounding email, which I thought was the most interesting topic that I heard talked about there. One of the things was the idea of writing deeply in order. So this was the guy who built. I can't remember what it was called. It was why email is still relevant. It was kind of that kind of talk, and it was from this guy he's the designer of emails in a company that grew an audience from 0 to like some insane number of subscribers. It was like in the millions, I think. And one of the things he said was, you're looking for the WSJ's 18th paragraph. So you want to go into detail, bring the interesting things to the top. And he was saying that what's most interesting to customers, and I think this applies to our accounting clients too, what's most interesting to people is you don't say just the obvious stuff because everybody's saying that. What you want to do is dig deep into a problem and bring it up to the surface, a problem that your clients have, and bring that up to the surface, one that people aren't talking about. Yeah, it feels specific, but that's where you get the most interesting stuff for your blog posts, for your, LinkedIn posts and things like that. What do you guys think about that?
Yeah.
It was 2.4 million subscribers, 0 to 2.4 million. Sorry.
Yeah. Specific wins. I mean, my old friend Adam Pierno wrote a book about it. So I'm a firm believer. Like, the more specific you can be, the more interesting it is, the more kind of bullseye of the target you can be. Is it as broad? I think that's the catch-22 that a lot of people get themselves stuck in, is they go, oh, well, there's only so many people that have that problem. And so I want to talk about something that's really, 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 really broad so I can have as much reach as possible. But at the end of the day, like, what's attractive is interesting. Specific is interesting. And, it's like, I can talk about giraffes, or I could talk about how giraffes have this one specific color in their pattern of their hair on their, I don't know if you call it, it's probably hair. They're like horses, right? They have hair, not fur. Like, that's interesting. Like, if you put that in a headline, like the one specific color that's it just makes it more interesting than if you just say an email about giraffes. Who's going to open that, right? That's why I like specific historical facts. Trivia is interesting because it's like nailing down to like the really granular level. So I like how whoever this was put it in terms of like the journal, the Wall Street Journal, and an article from a newspaper or an online, magazine or something, where it's like, yeah, that 18th paragraph, that's where it's like gets really interesting because we're in the weeds now, right? So, and
also gives you an opportunity to talk about how I should think about this rather than talking, delivering a bunch of facts, right? Mm-hmm. How do I think about this topic at this level now, right? Where people are interested in it. I'm going to give a meaningful analysis, and now you're proving your expertise. There's no doubt now your topic. If you can talk about the 18th paragraph in the WSJ article, right? You can be that specific and clear at that level.
Yep.
There was another one. I have two more if we have time here, but one of them was voice. And I thought that went to branding. He was talking about how voice in an email, right? Remember, we're talking about growing that email list to 2.4 million, how voice matters in informing, delighting, and connecting with your audience. And I thought, because we're involved in branding, because we write voice, tone, and mood that come from brand personality traits. This one seemed like a what do you call it? Something that's easy, cakewalk, right? Base it. I don't know. To me, just because it's something that we do, and it's something that's really easy if you trust those brand guidelines and follow them down to application. Does that make sense?
Of course it does, Chris.
Your voice,
chapter in one of our books.
Yeah.
Personality matters. It's interesting. It creates differentiation. And and that voice is an extension of your personality, right? It's an expression of your personality. So, I think for any brand that's looking to cut through and really, have impact, right, in the marketplace, that's one of the tools in your tool belt is your voice. And the more specific you can be about your voice, the more interesting you can be. I think it's hard to deliver that. I think that's probably where most people get tripped up, is they can maybe go through an exercise and come up with a personality for their firm. Maybe have some characteristics of that, maybe even have like a little bit of guidance around what that sounds like. But then when I have to actually write something, I don't really know how to translate that to writing. And I think that goes back to like, if you're not a writer by background and by training and by experience, or some combination of those things, it's really hard to translate personality to content in an effective and consistent way. And I think that's something like we even need to kind of grow in, is advising our clients on how to write better with the voice in mind. Part of that's having tools that communicate your voice in different ways. We talk a lot about like the brand metaphor or the archetype. Those are really, really helpful tools, because now I can start to have a voice applied to a character that I can think about as I'm writing, that puts like nomenclature and like voicing type like tools in my tool belt that I can start using. How I think I express myself as, Tom Hanks as Forrest Gump is different than how I think about myself as Clint Eastwood as Dirty Harry, right? And both of those have like they have particularities to how they talk and how they communicate that I can start to like put into my content in a really easy way, right? But if I don't have that tool, if I don't have like a metaphor that uses that, and those are just examples, don't take that too far. But if I don't have a tool like that to help me voice my brand, then I'm kind of left to like interpretation of traits, and that's difficult. Even an archetype, I think, has limitations to how far it really helps you to communicate. But they're all really great. I think that's where you need a multiplicity of tools, and yeah, we could probably talk all day about that. That's like a whole nother episode.
And we would, just give us a call. Just talk. The other, so the last thing was, I thought was interesting was, and I'm gonna combine two things here because I think I can. All right, be a publishing company. I think we've heard that before. At least I've heard that a lot before, and I think it's true. I think, that treating your internal marketing organization as a publishing company, it organizes you around thought leadership, creating thought leadership. The why for that, I think, the thing that justifies that is another thing they said, which was email is still irrelevant because people have to have an email that they have to check.
It's a great channel because everyone checks it just about every hour of the day, right? So and just like any channel, it's abused and therefore it gets ignored. Like certain messages get ignored, but the actual channel itself is checked more often than probably anything else. Maybe some social networks for certain people are a higher volume, but they don't engage with those. Those are lean back channels. Email is a lean forward. It's task oriented. It's react. I'm incentivized to respond, right? Because that's what I do. I'm either sorting, prioritizing, or responding. So I think it's a fantastic tool. And, for all of our friends in accounting firms, professional services, it's like, you're probably selling to a business, right? And so like use channels that reflect the kind of mode that your prospect is in. And for anybody in B2B, for sure, like you're selling to another business and therefore you want to like use channels that are in the mode of doing business. Email is a business channel. You're in business mode when you're in your inbox, especially on your work account, right? Similarly, like LinkedIn, right? Like I'm in business mode. It might be a little bit more casual, it might be a little bit more fun, might add a little bit of personality or some personalness to it, what's going on in my personal life. But for the most part, I'm on there to do business at some level, right? And so like it's a great channel to lean into from that perspective. I think that's a really good insight, Chris. And then just your larger one about publishing, being a publisher. I do have one kind of pushback on that because I've heard that for years and years. Every brand should be a publisher. I think every brand that has a point of view should be a publisher. I think if you don't have a point of view, you should not get into publishing because you're going to create garbage that is not helpful, that will not actually be effective. And you will come out the other end going, why did we do that? And you will put publishing as a methodology for marketing you'll have a really sour taste in your mouth and you'll never try it again. I cannot tell you how many firms I talk to who are like, we don't podcast anymore because it didn't work. And then I go and look at their podcasts and I'm like, well, you don't have a point of view. So of course it didn't work. It's not interesting. You're just doing it to do it. And that's not a reason to publish. A reason to publish is because you have a unique point of view. And it can be a soft point of view. It can be a vague point of view, but you've got one. So go get out there. And obviously the more specific you make it, we'll keep hammering that
develop
one.
it.
Develop it. And maybe over time, maybe that takes time. But like if you go into it and you're like, the activity of podcasting will get me leads. Like, no, it won't. Right? The activity doesn't get you leads. What gets you leads is a point of view that is strategically developed that really puts you in front of a particular audience and says, I'm going to deliver maximum value, right? Because I have a point of view. And I think that point of view is actually going to help you in your particular specific context as a certain type of business, certain type of job title, certain type of person who needs this information, right? And that just, so that would be my caveat to every brand should be a publisher. I'm like, you know what? Some brands should just advertise. Sorry. Like, because they don't have a point of view. They should just buy the attention.
If anybody wants to know what having a point of view sounds like, just rewind about 30 seconds and listen to Mike talk about having a point of view. Because I mean, and that's the passion, something that you believe in. Yep. And it's like if you're a company and you don't really believe that you're offering something different, I wonder why you're in business. Just go to work for the other companies that are offering the exact same thing the exact same way. But the point of view comes from that, being able to, hey, we do it differently. We have a process, or we have a point of view, or we have a specific passion about this thing that ripples through how we do everything we do.
Yep.
And we want to share that, and we can write a book about it and develop that into a passion.
Yep. Totally agree.
The anti-example, if I can take one more second here, the anti-example was StubHub that they gave. I just saw this. I thought it would be interesting. StubHub spams people. Don't sign up for their email list unless you just want to see how not to do it. If you just want to see how to spam people, and that what they gave as the advice was just, hey, offer a lot of value and then offer a little bit of ask, make sure you have that ask in there, but don't let it outshine your value to your people who take the time to open your email, or you're just going to get unsubscribed from.
I mean, that's just from a lot of experience. And then also just, I mean, if you're a marketer and you haven't read any Seth Godin, you need to go back. You need to dig through the archives, go check out his blogs, go read all of his books. I mean, that is like that is opt-in marketing 101. It's inbound marketing 101, which is deliver value. Every single message you put out into the world must deliver value. And especially if someone has said, I want to hear from you, here is my email address, or here is my LinkedIn profile, let's connect. If your message is just it's not delivering value, then get out. I mean, it's not doing you any good, and It's certainly probably going to risk you a relationship, right? They're going to unsubscribe. They're going to block you. They're going to be done with you at some level, or at the very least, they're going to ignore you, right? Like, you might still have access to their inbox, but man, you got filtered out. So you're going to the promotions folder. It's just, I don't know. It's funny that you say it, Chris. I feel like everyone should have already learned this lesson, but they're still doing it. So I guess I need to learn it again. All right. Are we going back? Are we going back?
Are we going back? Are we going back? Yeah. Would you guys go back to HubSpot next year? Would you go back again?
Go back to inbound.
Inbound. That's what I meant. Yeah.
I would not. Done. That's my answer.
Drop the mic. Get out.
Yeah. A quick little reason why. Explaining myself. I'm not an avid user of HubSpot, but even if I was, or a prospective avid user of HubSpot, I heard several people tell me that that's not really what they could get out of that. Like you said, Mike, you mentioned one friend that we met there who was actually looking to see if HubSpot would be a good resource, something to change over from their existing CRM. And he was like, I'm underwhelmed. I can't get any answers. I can't get anybody to show me how it works. And a lot of it was just like, go online, go read the notes, go watch this video. So even that, and I wasn't there for that either, but the biggest thing I got out of it was like the networking, and in a sea of 10,000 people, there's probably more intimate things that I could go to and get more networking value for a lot less cost and time. So I'm glad I went. It was a good time. Got to see some good friends. Got to see Boston for the first time, but not really planning to go back unless Mike tells me I have to.
How about you, Chris?
No, I wouldn't go back. It was flashy. I don't care about flash. It was like, the coffee was kind of hit and miss as far as even availability, which is like kind of a big deal. I loved going with you guys. That was great. The Boston was great. But that's not the reason we go to conferences usually, right? Is to go to the city. It's great. It's a great reason to go to a city, but I didn't get enough value out of it. I thought some of the conversations with the vendors were good because I learned a little more about some tools that are out there, some points of view on the tools. Some of the booths had founders manning the booths, and so that was a little more interesting. It was a little more personal, and they were really knowledgeable. Obviously you have those booths that just don't have knowledgeable people, and they're just there to smile and shake hands and get your badge or whatever. It wasn't worth it to me. I would rather go to a conference where they're talking a lot more about the work we do and things that'll help us directly with the work we do, which is a couple of the booths there, but not enough. It was a very small percentage of the total experience. So I would not go back. Unless you guys were going in 5 years and you're like, hey, let's go. Then I'm going to be like, party. But let's get our
You
own
wouldn't go
hotel
for the
room.
conference. You would go for us. I know.
Yeah.
I know, Chris.
That's right.
Super sweet. Mike, would you go back?
I was going to answer a flat out no. And then I thought of something that would make me go back. And that is if they wanted me to speak, I would go back.
Ew,
Yeah.
They should. They really should.
Honestly, that's probably the only way you'd get me back. I don't feel like I know why I would be going there again. I think this year was a fact-finding mission. It was like, let's get the experience. We know people that are going. Let's go hang out with them. We are using HubSpot more as a firm. I use it quite a bit from a CRM standpoint. I'm advising people on using it. So I thought maybe that would be helpful. It was not. It is not a user conference. That became really, really clear almost from the get-go of there is nothing here that is particularly geared for like avid users of HubSpot. And that, like, from a technical standpoint, so it's not a technical conference. And in that case, it's a marketing conference, but it's really broad. It's not clear who's supposed to be there. I don't know how to find like the people that I want to reach as a individual. So it's like, it's not a good business development, conference. The content itself, I could get in lots of other places for a lot less money. Was there anybody I was able to meet that I wouldn't be able to meet? No, not really. And I think the ultimate answer is I think I've outgrown some of these kinds of conferences. Like I just don't, this isn't what I need to do. I think if you are newer to the HubSpot world, if you are newer to marketing as a profession, this might actually be a good conference for you. It might be a good kind of like introductory kind of splash into marketing, advertising, kind of keep up with some of the, high level trends and stuff, because maybe you don't know how to do that already. You can get introduced to a lot of new people. Like, case in point, like Neil Patel, for some people, was brand new to them. Who he was, his experience as a marketer. I've known about Neil and I've seen his stuff for 10 years, 15 years. So like in one sense, it was like kind of fun to be like, oh, there's Neil, and what's he doing now? Oh, okay. Different, but kind of the same. So that was cool. And like his content was really good. I enjoyed it. I signed up for his I signed up for his email list afterwards. Like I haven't been on his email list in probably 10 years. So he got me back. So like that's cool, but like, I don't need that every year. So I don't think I'm going back. Unless I'm speaking. And then I think maybe there's some value. I mean, even I went in with like, maybe I wonder if there's like an opportunity down the road to like be a sponsor. And it was like, that was interesting to see that there is not a single agency in their sponsorship roles. So for all their like pushing, and okay, we're getting a little opinionated here about HubSpot. I mean, they've been pushing me for years and years to make Resound a HubSpot agency partner. I mean, we got really close one year. So glad we didn't do that. We might still. I'm not. That's not ruled out. But like, I went and I'm like, what is there here for agencies? There's nothing. This isn't going to help me get more clients. It's not going to help me keep clients. It's not. This is not for us. Yeah. So, I'd love to hear from any listeners who have reasons why they would go. I'd love to know what that is, not to sell me on it, or I would like to better understand how to direct people to inbound, and say, hey, yeah, this is a place that you should be. And then other conferences. I want to know about what other conferences people are going to. So I'd be interested if any listeners make it this far into the podcast episode.
Yeah.
All three of you.
Well, cool. There you have it.
Yeah. Thanks, everybody. We appreciate you hanging out with us and listening to all of our takeaways, feedback, opinions, lots of opinions from HubSpot Inbound Conference from 2024. Hope it was helpful for you. And like I already mentioned, if you have ideas, feedback for us on HubSpot Inbound Conference, other conferences you think that we should be checking out, we'd love to hear from you. Hit us up. Email me, mike@resoundcreative.com, or sam@resoundcreative.com, or chris@resoundcreative.com. Chris will take all of your complaints as well. So if you've got any issues with this show, send those to Chris particularly.
I would love to hear them.
And he will deal with them. He will
triage
triage them.
Respond back to you.
Oh, I love it. Anyway, we thank you all for hanging out with us, checking us out, and we'll see you next time.
The Remarkabrand podcast is a project of Resound and is recorded in Gilbert, Arizona. You can find us on Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, and at remarkablecast.com. If you'd like more episodes, subscribe on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, or wherever you prefer to get your podcasts. To contact the show, find out more about the Remarkabrand podcast, or to join our newsletter list to make sure you never miss another episode, check out our website at remarkablecast.com. Copyright Resound Creative Media, LLC.